Can you kind of explain? I feel like something that is confused a lot is kind of the correlation and causation type of stuff. Can you just kind of give a kind of a brief overview of, how that stuff kind of gets confused or works together?
Yeah, correlation, causation, it's one of the more difficult things for us to separate because as humans, we look for causative links between things. So if we see that it's cloudy outside, therefore it's cooler or it's more likely to rain, sometimes there is a causative, there is a strong link between the two. The problem is we make the mistake over and over and over again of linking two variables that may not have any causative link. So we talk about in our book this great example. It's tongue in cheek, of course. A statistician published an article that showed, and this is real data, the number of storks in various countries and the number of babies born in various countries. So you see there is a correlation between the number of storks born in a country and the number of babies born, mainly because bigger countries have more storks and therefore also have more babies. Sure. But it's not that storks are necessarily delivering babies. But of course, he makes the claim at the end, being funny, and of course, being facetious, that storks must therefore deliver human babies. Right. Or it would be like going into Babies R Us when we used to have. I think they're now out of business. But if an alien dropped down into Babies R Us, they go, "Wow, weird. These humans walk into this store, and then like 3 months and 3 months later, they have babies. It must be that Babies R Us is like inducing babies to have, or humans to have babies." When in fact, yes, there is a correlation. Those that go into stores are looking for car seats and baby things, and they do have a baby like 3 months later. And so these kinds of things happen all the time. And it turns out it's really, really, really difficult to get at causation. I mean, scientists and engineers, researchers, they're constantly trying to get at causation because that's a lot of time what we're looking for. You took drug A and it stopped disease A or whatever, or it didn't stop disease A, but it stopped disease B. You want these direct correlations. You want, or not correlations. You want to look for those causative links between variable A and variable B. Turns out it's really hard to do, and sort of the highest level of method that can get you there is like these random control trials, like that we're seeing right now a lot with these viruses or these vaccines against the COVID-19 virus. But the problem is it's not easy to do it. It's very expensive. It's difficult to set up. Sometimes it's not ethically right. So we'll say, okay, we're going to give a vaccine. You probably do have COVID. You don't, or we don't think you do. We're going to give it to this group and not to this group, but it could save, this group from not getting COVID or something. So there's challenges to what are called RCTs, these random control trials. So it's something that we devote an entire chapter to, this correlation causation, because when we talk about it in class, students always say, correlation doesn't imply causation. I know, let's move on. And then we go, okay, well, let's do some tests. So we do some quizzes and tests, and students realize fast how difficult it is. It's hard for me. It's hard for scientists. It's hard for any of us to get at it. And there's been some really nice demonstrations online. There's a former law student, I think, at Harvard, Tyler Neagman. I always pronounce it wrong, so I apologize, Tyler, but your work is great. He did a great website looking at spurious correlations. So he went and grabbed a ton of different data, looking at different time periods, and did what we call in data science as data dredging, and just looked between a relationship between one variable and another, and voila, like Nicolas Cage movies correlate highly to people that drowned every year or something, to these effects.
Right,
we give some examples. Tyler has great examples. And then if you look at the graph, they're like totally online. But as soon as you sort of move beyond that little window where it was just by chance together, they of course fall apart and there's no link. Because if there was a link, you would beg Nicolas Cage not to be in any more movies. But there's no correlation. There's no causation. Yeah, exactly. Right. So anyway, so that's the point. So it's correlation causation is a really important thing for us information consumers to get better and better at identifying, recognizing how difficult it is, and learning the methods by which we can get at our causation.
Okay. Yeah. And Yeah, it is so tough because, when you say these examples, it's like, well, duh, obviously the storks aren't causing babies. And like those are such good examples, I think, to get your mind into it, to kind of understand it. But then, yeah, like it's hard to understand.
It is hard.
You really need to, almost everything you see like that, you need to take some time to really think about it and try to understand if it is correlation or causation.
Totally. And so what we do in our classes, we do these exercises where we diagram, we put these circles, which represents, or some squares or whatever, and these just simple like dotted lines when we're not sure about the possible connection. We look at alternative connections. We look at alternative explanations to it. This exercise, I personally do it when I'm reviewing a science paper or a proposal to the National Science Foundation, when people are asking to, they're making arguments that sort of involve causation, that I will sort of chart these out. Carl does as well. And we have found that it really helps us. I think it helps students. And so we encourage people when they're doing it, because it is very hard. Just quickly diagram. We have some ways in which you can diagram. And we talk about it in our class and also in the book. But we want to create more and more of these different ways to make it easy, because it's hard. It's really hard.
Mm-hmm. Not to put you on the spot, but do you have an example of something that like an example that's the opposite of being, obvious, that seems like a causation, but it's definitely correlation?
Yeah, a hard one that we're still sort of struggling through would be whether giving someone like Tylenol or Advil during when they have a fever. Mm-hmm. Whether it's something that's been debated for a long time about what is it about lowering the temperature that either helps or actually hinders a human body to react well to an infection that they're likely fighting. Because for a fair amount of time in the medical community, and there are those that probably have evidence to support one side, which is that you want to lower the temperature. So as soon as you get 104 degree, I'm not an MD, so I'm just sort of speaking from on the research side, that research papers that we read, and Carl knows this better because he's written a bunch, or at least done some a more in-depth reading than I have. But it's an example where, to get a causation there, you would have to make sure that you took individuals that had, let's say, had taken aspirin to lower the temperature, and those that didn't lower the temperature and allowed the fever to maintain, because some people will argue, and for good reason, that that's the body's natural reaction to fighting an infection. But let's say you could show that one did it and one didn't. Well, then someone might say, well, it wasn't the drug itself. Maybe it was just the lowering of the actual temperature itself. It's the temperature side of it. So then you can do these interesting freezing experiments with, maybe with insects or something, or other, humans. You obviously, that's not ethically right. And so those kinds of things that's a hard one. Because if you look at it, it looks like, we could easily try to pull out the causative agent here, but it's not the case. So that there's lots of medical examples where it's not easy to tell the difference between correlation and causation. We provide a whole bunch of other examples also in our lecture notes and in the book.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And then something I wanted to talk about too was that I always get, what always gets me is like stats or like graphs or something. Like they just look good. They look pretty. They look like, wow, they're professionally done, so they must be right. Right, yeah.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. This is my dog, Murphy, and these are dog treats. Now I'll give Murphy one of these dog treats, and all you have to do is press the like button. Just press that little like button right down there at the bottom of this video, and this sweet, adorable, cute little puppy gets a treat. All thanks to you. All right, you did it? Okay. I believe you if you said you did it. There you go, Murph. She got that treat because of you. Now, I'll eat one of these treats, and all you have to do is click that subscribe button right there, pointing to it. Just click that subscribe button, subscribe to Curiosityness with me, Travis DeRose. Get lots of good video, and I'll eat this treat. All right, you did that too? That's not very good. Bro, not very good.